art is an important tool to communicate the story of the continent. As ALN, we have worked with you for several years to tell a different story of Africa through the lens of Mo Amin. Would you like to tell us more about your foundation and your job as a storyteller?
Thank you, Carlotta. You know, it's interesting that it's the first time only in the last couple of years have I realized the importance of doing history or showing history through photographs, through videos. And I'm fortunate that I sit on an archive that is so vast. You know, over 3.5 million images, over 20,000 hours of video that traces back the history of sub-Saharan Africa from the 1930s. And so, and then as we've delved into this archive, as we've looked at it, and as I've been talking to young people around the continent, realizing that there is so little knowledge of our history, there's so little that's being taught in schools about our history and where we've come from, the importance of this has started to dawn on me a lot more. So displaying, working with people like ALN and doing exhibitions and displaying some of this work in a small way, I think helps to educate another generation of young people about the history of our continent. And I've always felt that if you don't know your history, you can never move forward into the future. We will keep making the same mistakes if we don't learn from them. And I think this is really what I hope this content will achieve, and we'll be able to get it into curriculums, into schools and universities across the continent, and indeed across the world, because not only Africans have to learn Africa's history, it has to be done across different continents.
I think there is an additional value. As a company, we have to show a story of Africa that is not the one that you normally hear about, and showcase what Africa is at the moment. Your father broke the news of Ethiopia, and you are still working on documentaries and movies. Would you like to tell us more about that?
So again, you're absolutely right that the history of the continent has always been a very dark history that's been taught. And not because it didn't happen. It did happen. There was genocides, there have been wars, there have been famine. But this has all happened in Europe and other continents as well. It's just Africa has been stereotyped as that kind of a continent. And we've had these crazy characters that have been larger than life, people like Idi Amin, Bukasa, Mobutu, you know, very interesting characters that have always shown perhaps the more dark side of the continent. And what we're hoping to do is to tell the story from all the different aspects. So there is this negative perception. I mean, my father was very responsible for the negative perception of this continent. His breaking of the 1984 Ethiopian famine story put a stereotype on this continent, on Ethiopia in particular, but also on the rest of the continent as a continent of famine, of children with flies in their eyes, etc., etc. But he spent a large part of his life trying to rectify that picture by publishing coffee table books, guidebooks, over 100 of them, showing the beauty of the people, the cultures, the flora, the fauna of this continent, the talent of this continent. Started a show called Africa Journal in 1993. That was the first magazine show that showcased the beauty of the continent, the amazing people, the talent, the artists, the musicians, etc., which had never been done before. And that show ran for 30 years. So he tried to do that. The problem was the international media was not interested, and still isn't to a certain degree. It's got a little bit better, but frankly, you know, bad news is always going to be the priority for them. So now we have platforms, social media platforms and other things that will be able to showcase all of the good and positive things about this continent. Doing documentaries looking back at some of these massive events in Africa's history is important to us because we want to show what has happened since. How far have we moved? And we have moved very, very far. We have developed. We have become a center for attraction, for investment attraction. We are pioneers in technology in many countries on the continent. So these are things that I think we need to showcase, but giving a context of history, which is why we do these kinds of documentaries.
Today at BPI France, Inspire and Connect, you have run several interviews to business leaders and other leaders from different sectors. What is the positive story of the continent and how you contribute to that?
I think that's a great question. I think, what I've been hugely impressed by is the amount of confidence people have in this continent, the amount of investment that is coming in here, the amount of innovation that is happening from companies I really rarely have heard about. But there's so many pioneers on this continent doing amazing things, and it's nice to see that companies like BPI are actually recognizing this and putting finance and backing some of these entrepreneurs and these smaller companies. So for me, it's been a hugely positive experience talking to all of these people and understanding and learning more about the incredible and amazing companies and the work that these people are doing on this continent.
What are you wishing for your archives?
Well, I would love to have them accessible to millions, if not billions of people. I would love for more people to be able to see this archive, to be able to learn from it, to be able to understand where we've come from, the sacrifices that we've made, the great people that have been born on this continent and have done incredible things. And I don't think their stories have been told enough. People like Tom Mboya, who at the age of 38 achieved so much for this, not just Kenya, but for Pan-Africanism. I don't think they've been recognized enough. So I would love for this content to be made much more widely available. In order to do that, we need to digitize it all, and we need to, get partners, good partners that will be able to take this vision and run with it with me.
Thank you. And
thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.